What's up and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tuesday Tips and Tricks. This is episode number 63. I'm your host, Max at WeVideo, and as always, we've got another great episode lined up for you guys today. We're going to be going over in-camera transitions, always a fun thing. Before we get started, shout out to everyone who's watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, as well as hit the bell in the top right corner so you get a notification anytime WeVideo releases a new video. We also have our Tuesday Tips and Tricks landing page, which is on our blog. There you can go and see any of our previous episodes, as well as subscribe for an email update for each upcoming episode, and that email goes out on Thursday. All right, last bit of housework here. The WeVideo Creator Community Summit, the dates are announced. Got it going down on the bottom just there. You can go ahead and check that out. The agenda is now live. And this is a free to attend virtual summit. It was great last year, and it's going to be even better this year. All right. Without further ado, let's bring on our co-host, Tyler Wall.
How's it going, Max? Happy Tuesday once again.
Happy Tuesday.
What's up, chat? Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Tips and Tricks. We've got a great episode for you guys. It's about transitions today. So some fun stuff we did in camera, some of it from a while back, and some newer content as well. So stay tuned, check it out. If you guys do have questions throughout, go ahead and fire those off in the chat. We'll be sure to get through to them by the end of the episode. So looks like we got some people tuning in already.
Yeah.
What's up, Ann from San Diego?
John Langfield. I'm seeing some old faces, seeing some new faces. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, let us know where you're watching from. Looks like San Diego, Miami, UK. Love it. So, yeah, as we kind of mentioned earlier, today we're going to be going over in-camera transitions. We filmed some new content for this, and we actually pulled out some old footage that we're going to kind of do a demo on how we did it.
Right.
So without further ado, let's pull up the timeline.
Sounds good. All right, so we've got this timeline here, a couple examples of in-camera transitions and some creative ways you guys can make some, unique transitions without utilizing our transitions tab, which is right here. So let's go ahead and just preview this. This was the promo we did for this week's episode. So I'm just going to play it out so you can see. All right, so that's our first transition of the day. You guys probably get the idea just from viewing that. It's Max using his hand to create this transition, and I'm going to scrub through so we can see exactly what's happening here. Let me zoom into the timeline. Quick tip, use the zoom tool in the bottom right corner, and we can get a better view of our timeline by dragging this forward. All right. So if you use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you'll be able to scrub through so you can see the playhead going a frame at a time. And basically what's happening here is Max is covering the camera with his hand. And then on the second shot, he's revealing with his hand. We're just matching up the frames with the hand fully covering the screen. And then Max is being revealed in new locations as he goes. And we also added this sound effect here. So to find this, I just searched in the stock media library. And this is called Strong Swooshy Metallic Hits. So I believe I just searched for something along the lines of hit. And then we can filter this to audio. and then take it even a step further, right? And we can go to sound effects. So just uncheck those music and audio loops. So we just have the sound effects. And now we have some nice booms, some hits. So I just went ahead and found some that, I don't know, kind of matched the movement that Max was making with his hand. So if I go ahead and mute this track here, we can just hear the sound effects as they play out and see how that really brings another element to our transition here. So hopefully you guys can hear that. But yeah, we're just lining up these sound effects with the transition, and it's bringing our ears into that transition, right? So we hear it leading into it.
Yeah, I like that whoosh kind of sound. It's a nice touch. So yeah, this kind of transition sequence here can really be applied to anything. I've seen this done very frequently on like vacation videos where people are just going from site to site, and the only real kind of cohesive thing that blends everything together is just the opening and closing of each clip.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. If you guys are shooting something like a vacation video, maybe just play around with slapping the camera at the end of your shot, just so you have that there when you get into the edit. You have the potential to, use that as an endpoint to create a transition.
Yeah, I mean, one kind of the key tip here is that not only are you slapping it when you're done here, I can actually show you're starting each shot with your hand covering the lens too.
Right.
So that kind of completes it. Yeah. And then go and then simple thing. But
Yeah.
it's got a kind of cool little fun effect.
Yeah, so you can see here, this is the raw footage. So he's starting off with his hand there, and then just ending with his hand on camera. So pretty straightforward and simple. Another way we can go about doing this is just using, a shake of the camera or a swish pan. So this is something we see a lot in, I guess, travel videos as well. At the end of your shot, just shaking the camera or quickly turning it or tilting it up. That's going to also create a moment in which we can, add a transition. So in this shot, we do a blur. So Patrick, who shot this, our producer, he just blurred his last shot and then continued the blur in the next shot. And you can see where our cut is happening. So that blur allows us the ability to add this new clip, and then it tricks our eyes into thinking it's seamless.
Yeah.
So this is something we could do with like I said, a swish pan or a tilt up. It's just another way to create a nice natural looking transition versus doing something like a cross blur. And if we were to add a cross blur to this, it could actually kind of amplify it or make our effect seem even nicer.
Yeah, that actually worked pretty well.
Yeah, so mixing in the natural transition with one of these actual transitions you can find in WeVideo is also a great way to make this really come to life.
Awesome. All right. First question. Can you also change the transition time for all of the clips?
Great question, Albert. Yeah, so there is a way to change the duration of our transitions. I can show you that real quick. If you just click on the actual transition itself in the timeline, it's going to bring up the duration. I can actually change the type of transition from here as well. And then you can see this select all. I could change the duration of all the transitions at once by clicking that, and we can make it a quicker transition. And you'll see that affected each one of these transitions here as well. So now we have a quicker transition happening.
Yeah, we might want to just highlight, Tyler, how to apply the transitions to all of them at once too.
Oh, sure.
So if you highlight them all or multiple clips at once.
Let me just undo. Yeah, you can highlight multiple clips at once. If you wanted to just do these 3 here, you can see how I'm selecting just the 3. Right click. Oh, doesn't like that for some reason. See if we can do 3. There we go. Right click, add transition, and that will add the transition between the clips you've selected. So I could also do all these clips at once. You'll see each one of the clips now has a transition in between it.
And then I believe it defaults to a crossfade, right?
Yeah, I believe the default is going to be crossfade, just simply because that's the first one, and that's the one that we most often see used. It's kind of our standard transition. But I can quickly just change that right here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, big thing with this is that you can definitely overdo it with the After Effect transitions like these, which is why it's oftentimes nice to incorporate stuff that you do with just the camera.
Yeah.
Or just oftentimes just a straight up cut.
All right. So those were, oh, we do have one more transition we can look at. This one was just shot with a drone. So I actually have some crossfades happening in between here. But this is just a drone pulling back, and it's kind of a advancement in time. So another cool way to do that is it's just basically, let me delete the transition so we can see what's happening. These are just basically jump cuts happening. So moving forward in time quickly. There's tons of great ways to create in-camera transitions. So play around with some of those that we brought up today, like the shake or the reveal of the hand.
Just had another question come in, Tyler. This one's from Terry Blake. She said she used the mobile app and it made the Ken Burns effect. Is that only available in the app? The answer to that is no. It's also doable in the desktop editor, like where we're at now, and we can go ahead and show that.
Yeah, great question. We actually went over this, I think, either last week or the week before. Let me hop into my media and let's find some images.
Yeah, one thing to point out is that this effect can only be applied to images.
Yeah,
and
so
you
you're
can animate anything, but in terms of like bulk applying it, you can only do it with images in WeVideo.
right. So in this folder here, I've got a bunch of photos. And to apply the Ken Burns effect, all you're going to have to do is select 3 or more of these photos at once. Let's go ahead and do that. And then drag them directly into our timeline. And then you're going to get this dialog box. So this is going to give us the option of creating a Ken Burns effect, which is essentially just a animation to our images. We talked about this last week. Ken Burns, he's a documentarian, kind of popularized this effect, and now it's used in relation with his name, but it's just an animation. That's all that's happening. So we can choose the length of time that we want this animation to take place over. So if we wanted it to be really long, we could make it like a 10-second, or we could just go with like 3 seconds. can also use frames for this, but it's a little bit more math, so let's just stick to seconds. And then be sure you have this applied. Hit done. And as you can see, now we have our Ken Burns effect happening on these images. So a slow animation happening on each one of these frames. Now, because we are in a square format, you might have noticed that some of the photo got cut off. What we can do in the Ken Burns effect, because it is just a default animation that's being applied, is we can go in and adjust our animation with the framing just to make sure, some of the photos might end up being not framed like we want. So in this case, we want to see this water tower. So I'm just going to readjust the framing and scaling, save those changes. And now my Ken Burns effect should look a little better. So just double check each one of your photos after you've applied this effect to make sure that it's looking like you want it.
Awesome. So that is kind of all the camera transitions we really had lined up to show in the timeline. So if there's any questions, fire those off in the chat. In the meantime, we didn't film any of this, but in terms of like other ideas for transitions, Tyler, I think, touched on it, but just quickly panning away from like while you're filming can be a nice touch. And then if you already know what your next clip in is going to be, you can also start from the same direction and flip into it, and that makes a nice touch.
Yeah, that's a really popular one, right? The whip pan or tilt up, and then just be sure, like Max said, that you're doing the same movement on your second shot so that you can match it up.
Yeah. So I think one of like those video tips is to just basically follow the direction of motion. Yeah. So if you pan in from left to right and your next clip is a car going from right to left, it'll look, I guess, more odd than it would if you had the car coming from left to right.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here from Allison. Can you blur backgrounds in Batch?
That's a good question. I'm actually not sure of that, so let's go ahead and check it out. I don't believe you can, but let's just make sure of that. All right, so let's remove this. The blur background feature, for those of you that don't know, is a very useful one. In the case that we wanted the entire photo shown in the square format, something like this might happen where we have this letterboxing happening. So the tops and bottom is, got this extra space. So what we can do is just in our clip editor in the transform tab, hit this blurred background, and that's going to make a blurred background of the same photo so that it fills this space up. It's a really nice touch. Let's see if we can do multiple at once, though. I don't think you can. Yeah, it looks like we can only do one at a time because it is in the clip editor transform tab.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can only do one at a time.
This feature is especially nice if you're filming or you're doing a video in horizontal and you've got a couple vertical shots mixed in. We've, I think, actually done a Tuesday tips on this as well. Yep, we will suggest this to the product team, Allison. Thanks for the heads up. Awesome. Again, guys, if there are any more questions, fire those off. We finished a little earlier today, but short and sweet.
Yeah, it's a quicker episode today. So if you guys do have questions, those always are good.
Awesome. Well, wait a little bit longer. In the meantime, this is a good time to remind Tuesday Tips is fueled by questions and suggestions from our viewers like you. So if you have anything that you'd like to see us do an episode on, revisit, etc., let us know. And if we can't address it right now, we can obviously do a dedicated episode to it in the future. Next question here, Tyler's from Jojo. He said there's a really cool transition where there's a circle in or a circle out. Do you guys have that?
Let's see. I think we have something like that in our transitions. Like a circle wipe, maybe. Let's see. The atmospheric. Oh, I would think we would, but it doesn't look like we have a good circle transition here.
I wonder if he's talking about kind of like the iris transition where it just closes in.
Right. No, I don't see something like that. That would be a good one to add, though.
We will relay all of this to the product team. See what we can do.
I think the closest thing we have is this kind of but that's not what we want. I don't think that's what JoJo was looking for.
Yeah, I don't think so. Awesome. Well, if that's it for questions, then I think we'll call it a wrap for today's show. If anything else comes in, let us know in the chat and we can address it during next week's episode. Thanks for everyone for joining us. And yep. Oh, sorry. I thought we had one more question. We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Happy creating.